Today, I would like to talk about the difference between archaeology in fiction and archaeology in fact. They're actually very, very different, and many people, as archaeologists, would say that the general public is hopelessly naive about what they really do in practice. This might be true, but to give away my punchline, I think the public is far more savvy about fiction than many people would like to realize. First, let me discuss a little bit about archaeology and what it is today. Archaeology is a vast field. I don't even want to summarize all the various subdisciplines, but in general, archaeology deals with material culture, how to study material culture, and it uses historical sources, written sources, to elucidate what life was in the past. In some cases, of course, for very early cultures, there is no evidence to suggest how these cultures would have been, so that it requires a lot of theory. But in general, archaeology isn't based a lot on theory. It's based on material evidence and typology, so that ancient garbage like ceramic remains are classified as to their typology over a period of time. This might seem to be incredibly boring to the public, and it probably is, to be blunt, but there are many areas of science where, like stamp collecting, a huge amount of effort is placed into putting things in a series, to collecting things, and not so much into predictive theories. So in this way, archaeology is a lot like what traditional geology would be. Of course, we know that earth scientists have a number of other techniques and predictive methods to explore, say, deep earth processes. Obviously, nobody has been to the very deep earth, but through predictive modeling, you can understand what it is like down there. The same really can't be said of archaeology. You can use ground probing radar. You can use dowsing rods as far as anyone cares. But the reality is, for the typology, for getting the ancient garbage that archaeologists feed on, you need to be there. You need to dig it up. So if you're studying animal bones, if you're studying ancient poop, which is known as coprolites, you really need to have the samples. And much of archaeology is getting more and more scientific, so that more and more effort is being put to less and less. As an example, carbon dating has almost completely replaced methods of using pottery typology to get an exact date. In fact, many archaeologists will date their site using carbon dating or other scientific methods, and will plug it into their typology of pottery so that they can then predict dates up and down the line with some certitude. This brings us naturally to a consideration of what Indiana Jones does. Indiana Jones doesn't really spend a lot of time digging. He doesn't really spend a lot of time with a trowel in his hand. He does get dirty, but it's usually involved in some kind of international pleasure trip involving lots of sex, a little bit of violence, and a huge amount of intrigue. Now, quite naturally, many archaeologists say, well, this isn't realistic, which is, of course, very true, because nobody in the general public wants to watch a video of a sad, underpaid academic studying ancient poop. People want to see beautiful things. You want to see a beautiful ancient city. You want to see beautiful modern people exploring that ancient city. You don't want to see grumpy academics, grumpy contract archaeologists, lots of rain, lots of real dirt, and of course, the other thing that archaeologists seem to be fond of, lots of alcohol, smashed people in the evenings, wandering around thinking, why is it I am in this field? Now, joking aside, I think the general public is well aware that Indiana Jones and Lara Croft have as much to do with reality as Star Wars or Star Trek has to do with any future that will really happen. Now, in the same way that people who enjoy Star Trek, and in fact many scientists enjoy Star Trek, they all realize that the propulsion systems used in Star Trek, the technobabble used in Star Trek, is ridiculous. I don't think anyone in the general public is really looking forward to faster than light travel anytime soon. And at the other extreme, I don't think many people watching Star Trek really understand anything about the modern American Navy. And I don't think anyone in the real public, the mass of the public out there that many academics seem to look down on, I don't think many of these people would say watching Star Trek is a good preparation for your career in the Navy. You have to give the general public a little bit of credit for knowing what fiction is all about. And I think if many academics just relaxed and enjoyed fiction, the world could be a better place. Now, with archaeology, it is very difficult to separate fact and fiction in some areas. Now, say there are issues that aren't dealt with very well in modern fiction. Now, neither Indiana Jones nor Lara Croft are particularly worried about looting. They're not worried about the issue of going to exotic foreign countries and taking antiquities back to America or the West and enjoying them there. They're not worried about the bigger philosophical impacts of what is it we are studying, why we are studying it. Of course, like everyone in the general public, Lara Croft and Indiana Jones want to bring back important things, things with occult power, things that are inherently beautiful. In fact, academic archaeology seems almost sometimes to enjoy studying the ugly things, the things that are intentionally revolting or disgusting, like coprolites. Now, of course, there are some academics who really enjoy doing this and who are wonderful at presenting their subjects and who can make the study of ancient poop something that the general public would actually be interested in. This would be a narrow nature program, a narrow thing on television devoted to some arcane bit of learning that might tell us something about ancient health and modern health. However, to most people who are interested in archaeology, who say, "Oh, you're an archaeologist. I wish I was an archaeologist rather than a dentist," they're referring to something, no doubt, in a coffee table book. This is what archaeologists aspire to do, is produce wonderful coffee table book and entertainment that can give a very biased view of the past as one of ancient civilizations and empires. However, this is an enduring view. This is why people study the past. They want to study the past to be presented with an interesting alternative, to be presented with civilizations that aren't like their current civilization. So to a certain degree, both archaeologists and the general public are into escapism, just like the greatest fiction. They want to escape into a vision of the past. And for an academic, their vision of the past is very different than that in the general public, but in fact, both are the same thing, escapism. It's a very narcissistic field at the end of the day. And it's hard to admit it, but at the end of the day, nobody really needs archaeology. It's not like rocket science, where you need to bomb somebody in another country. It's not like medicine, where you're saving lives. It's not like any number of professions that actually have some value-added element to them. You can talk all you want about archaeology teaches you things about the past, applicable skills in the job market, how to write, how to think, but we all really know it's just narcissism. Thank you very much.